Niccolo Machiavelli lived in a world filled with deceit, betrayal, and hidden daggers. He understood something most people never learn. Not all enemies announce themselves. Some smile, flatter, and pretend to be allies, while secretly poisoning your reputation, your confidence, and your direction in life. These are the truly toxic people. They drain your energy, distort your perception, and slowly dismantle your strength without ever raising a sword. Machiavelli's approach to dealing with such people was not emotional, it was strategic. He would never waste time trying to fix them or appeal to their better nature. He knew that once a person reveals their true character, your task is not to reason with them, but to contain them, outmaneuver them, or remove them completely. This is not cruelty, it is survival. Today, we will explore 6 Machiavellian principles for dealing with toxic people, whether they are manipulative co-workers, jealous friends, controlling family members, or charming narcissists. These lessons will show you how to stay calm, maintain power, and protect your mind in a world full of hidden enemies. 1. Recognize the nature of the beast. The first commandment in Machiavellian strategy is brutal in its honesty. See people as they are, not as you wish them to be. This single truth separates the powerful from the naive. Most people project their own goodness onto others, assuming that kindness will be met with kindness, loyalty with loyalty. But Machiavelli understood that human nature is not built on virtue. It is built on self-interest, and when self-interest collides with your well-being, even the most charming face can become the mask of a predator. Toxic people exploit this blindness. They move through life like actors, using pity to gain sympathy, guilt to demand compliance, and charm to conceal their true intentions. They manipulate not through open hostility, but through subtle emotional warfare. Machiavelli would not waste a moment trying to decode their trauma or origins. He would remind you that the why does not matter, only the pattern does. It is a great mistake, he wrote, to believe that one can persuade wicked men by kindness. A toxic person's hunger for power is not a wound to be healed. It is a weapon to be recognized. Their need for control, their habit of twisting truth, their delight in watching others doubt themselves, these are not accidents, they are tactics. The more you rationalize their behavior, the deeper you fall into their game. Machiavelli would warn that sentimentality is the enemy of strategy. You cannot play chess while hoping your opponent will suddenly play fair. So your first defense is not confrontation, it is clarity. Learn to observe without reacting. Watch their words, their timing, their emotional triggers. Every manipulator follows a rhythm, and once you detect it, you hold the power. Treat them as a general would treat a cunning adversary. Study them, anticipate them, but never reveal your understanding. The moment you see their moves before they make them, you have already taken away their most powerful weapon, the element of emotional surprise. In the Machiavellian sense, clarity is not merely perception, it is protection. When you can look at someone's behavior and name it for what it is, you detach from their influence. Their guilt no longer stings. Their chaos no longer confuses. Their charm no longer deceives. You start seeing the game instead of playing it blindly. And once you see the game, you are no longer a piece on their board. You become the player. Machiavelli would say that wisdom begins with disillusionment. To recognize the beast is not cynicism, it is self-defense. It means accepting that some people are not broken, they are deliberate. They thrive on control because it feeds their sense of superiority. And once you recognize that, you stop wasting energy trying to fix them. You simply adjust your stance, protect your peace, and move with the quiet awareness of someone who sees the world not as it should be, but as it truly is. Number 2, never argue. Control the frame. Machiavelli understood a truth that few ever master. The one who controls emotion controls the outcome. Arguing with toxic people is like stepping into quicksand. The more you move, the deeper you sink. These individuals feed on conflict because it gives them life. They draw strength from your frustration, energy from your anger, and satisfaction from your need to be understood. Every argument becomes a stage, and you are the unwilling actor in their theater of control. They don't seek truth, they seek domination. They twist logic, distort facts, and shift blame until you are defending things that never even happened. Machiavelli would call this a form of psychological warfare, a game that can only be won by refusing to play. Instead of arguing, you must control the frame. This means setting the emotional and psychological boundaries of the conversation before they can. The toxic person thrives on escalation, but if you respond with calm precision, you deny them their oxygen. Lower your tone, speak less than necessary, use pauses and silence as tools of power. Machiavelli often praised the art of calculated restraint, the ability to say nothing while forcing others to reveal everything. When you are silent, they grow anxious. When you are calm, they grow frantic. When you stop reacting, they lose the mirror they use to project their manipulation. Silence is not surrender, it is psychological dominance. It signals that you are not emotionally dependent on the approval or chaos of others. Machiavelli knew that the ruler who can remain composed while others panic always wins. The toxic person wants to pull you into the storm so they can command the waves. But if you become still, anchored, unshaken, the storm begins to lose power. They will grow louder, more desperate, more irrational. This is when you know the balance of control has shifted. Their efforts to provoke you are no longer strategy, they are weakness made visible. The moment you stop arguing, you strip them of their script. You force them into discomfort because they can no longer predict you. Machiavelli believed that unpredictability is one of the purest forms of power. It keeps your opponents off balance, constantly adjusting to a rhythm they can't control. When you are calm, composed, and deliberate, you are not just avoiding conflict, you are dominating the emotional landscape.
Remember this, toxic people cannot thrive in peace. They need your reaction like fire needs oxygen. The less you give, the faster they suffocate in their own chaos. Machiavelli would tell you that true strength is not in the volume of your voice, but in the control of your tone. You win not by overpowering them, but by removing the battlefield entirely. So never argue with the cunning. Do not fight fire with fire. Starve it of air. Let silence speak where words would fail. Control the frame, and you control the outcome. Because in the end, Machiavelli knew, the calm mind always commands the storm. 3. Isolate their influence, not their existence. Machiavelli was a realist. He knew that in life, you cannot simply exile every threat. Some toxic people are bound to you by circumstance, family, co-workers, superiors, or partners in necessity. He would tell you that the wise do not waste energy trying to remove every enemy. They focus on neutralizing their influence. To Machiavelli, isolation was not about physical distance. It was about psychological control. You do not have to destroy someone to weaken their hold over you. You simply have to stop allowing their words, moods, and opinions to shape your inner world. That is the true battlefield, the mind. Begin with emotional detachment. Toxic individuals survive on reaction. They test you not to understand you, but to feed off your response. Every time you explain yourself, justify your decisions, or defend your worth, you hand them more control. Machiavelli would say that dependence on validation is a leash, and the toxic person knows how to pull it. So stop feeding them your energy. Be polite, but indifferent. Calm, but distant. If they try to provoke emotion, answer with facts or silence. If they seek drama, give them dullness. Over time, your lack of response becomes a mirror that forces them to face their own emptiness. This is not cruelty, it is strategy. Machiavelli advised princes to keep potentially dangerous courtiers close enough to watch, but far enough to limit harm. He understood that enemies observed are enemies weakened. Apply this wisdom to your modern world. Do not cut contact impulsively. Observe patterns quietly. Study their tactics, their triggers, and the ways they attempt to gain control. What they reveal in their behavior is more valuable than any confession. Every time you watch instead of react, you gain insight. Every time you remain calm, you gain power. The toxic person thrives in emotional chaos. Deny them that, and they begin to decay from within. Understand this. To isolate someone's influence is to starve their importance. They may still exist in your environment, but they no longer exist in your mental space. You no longer think about what they might say, how they might feel, or how to please them. Their words lose weight. Their manipulation loses impact. And, as Machiavelli would say, once a person no longer has power over your emotions, they have no power at all. Your detachment will disturb them. Toxic people are addicted to being central, to being the cause of tension, the reason for your anxiety, the focus of your energy. When you pull that away, they panic. They may grow louder, more dramatic, or attempt to guilt you into re-engagement. But that only reveals the truth. Their power was never real. It depended entirely on your attention.
The ultimate Machiavellian victory is not in revenge or confrontation, it is in becoming untouchable. You don't need to win against them, you need to rise beyond them. Keep your peace guarded like a fortress. Interact only when necessary and on your terms. When they realize they can no longer reach your emotions, you've accomplished what Machiavelli considered the purest form of power. Influence without exposure, strength without conflict, control without cruelty. 4. Turn their energy against them. Machiavelli admired those who could conquer without drawing a sword, those who could turn an enemy's strength into the very source of their downfall. He believed that the most elegant victories were those achieved through redirection, not resistance. Toxic people, for all their cunning and chaos, are creatures of habit. Their manipulation may appear clever, but it is often predictable once you learn their rhythm. They repeat the same games: gossip, provocation, guilt, deceit, because these tactics have worked for them in the past. To a Machiavellian mind, predictability is weakness, and weakness can be used as a weapon. If a toxic person thrives on gossip, do not try to silence them. Use their mouth as a messenger. Feed them small, controlled pieces of harmless information and observe where it travels. You will learn who listens to them, who believes them, and who benefits from their whispers. You turn their own game into your intelligence network. If they seek to humiliate you, do not descend to their level. Stay composed, poised, and unbothered. Their petty attacks will eventually reflect their insecurity, not your weakness. Machiavelli would remind you that dignity is a weapon sharper than outrage. It exposes the moral contrast between the calm and the chaotic, the disciplined and the desperate. When they crave attention, deny it completely. A toxic person starves in silence. Their manipulation feeds on engagement, on knowing that their words disturb you, their actions disrupt you. Each time you withhold your reaction, you strip them of nourishment. They will try harder to provoke you, but every failed attempt weakens their confidence and reveals their dependency. They need your energy to exist. Without it, their schemes collapse under their own weight. The key, Machiavelli would say, is strategic patience. Do not rush to expose or confront them. Let them unravel themselves. Let time and their own behavior betray them. Those who manipulate inevitably overplay their hand.
They lie one time too many, provoke one person too far, and eventually reveal their true nature. You are not destroying them. They are destroying themselves, and you are simply giving them space to do it. Machiavelli admired generals who won wars not through force, but through timing, waiting for the moment when the enemy's ambition became their downfall. Remember this: toxic people cannot live without conflict. It is their sustenance, their sense of control, their illusion of power. When you deny them that, when you remain steady and observant, their aggression begins to eat away at their own composure. Their schemes turn inward. Their arrogance isolates them. What once gave them control now becomes their cage, and all you had to do was stand still and watch. This is the Machiavellian art of inversion, turning an opponent's energy against them without ever raising your voice or your hand. It is not cruelty, it is mastery. It is the quiet, strategic patience of one who understands that the most powerful victories are those won through composure, observation, and the flawless timing of restraint.
5. Withdraw with dignity, never with drama. In the end, the most decisive and powerful act you can make against a toxic person is withdrawal. But Machiavelli would caution that how you withdraw determines who truly wins. Leaving in anger, shouting in frustration, or demanding acknowledgement only feeds their ego and confirms their influence. They want the explosion, the argument, the scene, because it reassures them that they still matter. The true Machiavellian victory is to leave without emotion, without announcement, and without apology. You disappear not because you were defeated, but because you have evolved beyond the need to engage. Indifference is the sharpest blade, and silence cuts deeper than any insult. Toxic people thrive on attention, no matter the form. They crave closure because it gives them another opportunity to manipulate your emotions, to draw you into yet another cycle of justification and guilt. Do not give them that satisfaction. The moment you stop explaining, stop defending, and stop reacting, you become a mirror that reflects their emptiness. Walk away calmly, without resentment, without theatrics. Do not announce your decision. Simply fade from their reach as if they never existed. To Machiavelli, this is not weakness. It is tactical retreat, a reallocation of your strength toward what truly deserves it. Understand this: withdrawal is not defeat, it is liberation. Every minute you stop feeding the toxic connection, you reclaim your focus, your peace, and your authority. The toxic person may attempt to pull you back with guilt, pity, or provocation. They might suddenly become kind, apologetic, or desperate, using your empathy as bait. Machiavelli would say that these gestures are nothing but moves in a game they refuse to stop playing. Recognize them for what they are: attempts to regain influence, and respond with calm detachment. The less you explain yourself, the stronger your silence becomes. When you walk away with composure, you send a message far louder than any confrontation could deliver. You no longer exist in my mental empire. You have stripped them of the one thing they value most: your attention. To a toxic person, indifference is unbearable because it exposes their irrelevance. They will rage, gossip, or attempt to tarnish your name, but every move they make only highlights your absence of concern. Machiavelli admired leaders who knew when to advance and when to retreat, not as a surrender, but as a strategic reset. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is withdraw from a battle that is beneath your purpose. The wise understand that not every fight deserves energy, and not every person deserves access. To leave quietly, with dignity and discipline, is to reclaim sovereignty over your mind and your peace. So walk away, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Detach, not to punish them, but to preserve yourself. Machiavelli would remind you that true power is not in conquering others. It is in mastering the art of walking away, untouched. 6. Build an inner fortress. In the end, Machiavelli would tell you that the greatest defense against the venom of toxic people is not aggression, nor avoidance. It is inner strength. Power, after all, is not measured by how loudly you can dominate a room, but by how quietly you can remain unmoved when the world tries to shake you. A man who knows himself cannot be manipulated. A person anchored in self-respect cannot be controlled through guilt or fear. Machiavelli saw clearly that the mind is the first territory to be conquered and the last fortress that must never fall. Your inner fortress is not built overnight. It is forged through solitude, reflection, and self-discipline. You must learn to find comfort in your own company, because solitude reveals your strength. The person who fears being alone is easily controlled, for they will tolerate anything to avoid isolation. Machiavelli would tell you to train yourself to stand alone. When you stop seeking constant validation, when you no longer crave the approval of those who do not deserve you, you become a fortress that cannot be breached. Toxic people rely on your emotional dependency, your need to be liked, understood, or accepted. When that need dissolves, so does their power. Inside this fortress, reason becomes your guard and calmness your weapon. You no longer react to every insult or manipulation. You respond, if at all, with purpose. The world can rage around you, but within your walls, there is order. This is not coldness, it is mastery. Machiavelli believed that a leader must be both lion and fox, fierce in defense, cunning in perception, yet always composed. Build your mind this way, sharp but serene. When your emotions no longer dictate your actions, when peace becomes your default state, toxic people lose every advantage they ever held. Their arrows fall short against the stone of your discipline. Machiavelli's wisdom reminds us that the world will never be pure, and people will never be perfect. Deceit, envy, and betrayal are constants of human nature, but these things only harm the unguarded, the ones who open their gates to every emotion, every opinion, every provocation. The wise do not barricade themselves from life. They simply fortify their inner world so that nothing external can overthrow it. To build an inner fortress is to declare, "You may disturb the world around me, but you will never rule the world within me."